going on, everybody? Welcome back to another amazing episode here on the Veteran Influencers Podcast. Once again, Chris Levine. And today we have, once again, as we always do, a special guest. And today we have a naval officer, and she is a lieutenant in the Navy. Her name is Lt.Kellie Hall Sbrocchi. And she has so many things that is absolutely amazing about her. And I know that she's going to be a completely inspirational guest. She was the Inspirational Officer of the Year for the Navy Recruiting District in the fiscal year 2018. She was the Medical Recruiter of the Year, fiscal year 2019. 16 gold wreaths for recruiting excellence, a professional model. She was the Miss USA California runner-up. She runs a podcast. She runs a business. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't even know if there's anything that she doesn't do, but hey, everybody, welcome Miss Lt.Kellie Hall Sbrocchi.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited. I love your energy. I feel like this is going to be an awesome episode today.
Absolutely. I appreciate it. It's the same thing from you. You know, we always do like a pre-meeting to the actual podcast, and I get to feed off of everybody's energy, and you definitely have brought it. And I know I'm going to have a great time doing this. So I definitely appreciate your time.
Absolutely. Always happy to be here. Like I said, anytime I'm working with like fellow military, I'm like, absolutely, tell me the time. Like, sign me up. I'm going to do it.
See, that's what I'm talking about. We need more people like you. We're going to add that to the bullet of accomplishments. All right, well, let's go ahead and get this started. So I want to know about baby Kellie. I want to know what it was like, born in San Francisco, growing up in Stafford, Virginia.
Yeah, a lot to unpack there, obviously, but I'd say, growing up in the military, I'm a Navy brat through and through. I didn't even realize growing up like that was unique. I just thought that was like so normal, right? When you're in the military, like a military kid, everyone else around you is a military kid too. So it really wasn't until like later in my life I was like, wow, that was like a pretty unique upbringing. But it forced me, and we moved like 5 times growing up before I landed in Stafford. We lived in Italy. My parents specifically lived like out in the economy in an Italian villa, learned a little language, had a ton of Italian friends, and I was like, oh, this is normal. Like every 3rd grader does this in their life, right? But that forced me to really become who I am now, like social, outgoing, gregarious, like that sort of thing. And then I have wonderful parents. They just always had they pushed us to be max potential always. So I remember in like the 5th grade, and I've never told this story before. In the 5th grade, I told my mom, I was like, Mom, I want to run for class secretary, because there was like an opportunity to like run for class office, right? And I thought that was like normal. I was like, oh, like the women, like there should be class secretary. So I'm going to be class secretary. So I come home and I tell her that, and I was like, we need to make posters. And she was like, why are you going for class secretary? Why not class president? And I was like, well, I don't know. Like, I don't know. Like, I didn't really have an answer. Like, I was like dumbfounded, right? So that really stuck with me. So then starting in the 7th grade, I started running for class office, and I ran for class office 8th grade through senior year of high school, and I was a class president all 4 years in high school. So like that's the kind of parenting I had. They were like, why not just do like the most? Like you can do that. Like you completely can do that. And I was like, oh, okay. Like sure.
That is incredible. Like I think a lot of us hear about, I've heard the term class president, class secretary, but can you kind of break down what that is? Because I'm gonna be honest, like if somebody like told me to define that, there's no way I can do that.
Yeah, I mean, in elementary school, what did we do? Like organize like probably who's bringing in cupcakes for the day, or like, the lines at recess. It's nothing like major, but when I was in high school, it was homecoming, prom, fundraisers, school dance, all of that, floats, really just like an introductory to leading people and like managing a team, right? Like at the lowest level. So like that was such a good introduction later to why I wanted to, and I was looking into the military options and then eventually the Naval Academy, because I was like, I think I might enjoy this, like I feel like I work well with people. So all of that aside, and then on top of it, I had track. I started competitively running in 7th grade. Another opportunity just to really take on, something that takes a lot of dedication and hard work. But side story, now it's my dad's turn, right? So in the fourth grade, I did. Did you ever do like the presidential fitness award or like fitness thing in school? Like you had to take like a physical test. Do you
You know
remember
what?
that?
Man, that sounds familiar now.
Like the sit and reach? Did you ever do the sit and reach?
Okay, I do
Yeah.
remember that now.
Yeah. Like
Yo!
I think we literally do it like once a year when you're a
Yes.
kid. And maybe flex arm hang. I don't even remember, but like there's definitely a mile run and there's definitely sit and reach. I know those two things for a fact.
I think I do remember that now.
I promise I have a point. So
No, you're good.
I remember in like third grade, again, like in the back, I was like running the mile with all of like the girls in the very, very back. They're basically doing like a brisk walk,
Right.
But that's where all like the girls were socializing, and I was like, oh, okay. And so I like went back there, and I ran. I think it was like 16-minute mile or something, right? Like
Right.
wild. So secretly, like I used to run everywhere as a kid. I always raced the boys in the streets. Like I would play soccer with the little Italian boys. Like that's what I did. So my dad worked at the Naval Hospital in Sigonella, like right behind my school. And in fourth grade, we were doing our presidential fitness test, and he just happened to be walking to work at the same time.
Coincidence.
So I'm like, I start and I like literally file into the back. I'm like, all right, like let me just get in my little space here. Like, what's up, ladies? And my dad's at the top of the hill and he's like, Kellie, what are you doing? And I look up and I'm like, hey, Dad. And he's like, go, like run. And I was like, oh, okay. So I like started running, right? Well, long story short, he like cheered me on, all 4 laps. I ended up passing not just like groups of people, but I caught up to the fastest boy in the class. And I beat him. And I ran like, as a fourth grader, I ran like 7:45 or 8-minute mile. It was like insane, right? For like a fourth grader. From that day on, my dad was like, a legend is born. We're insuring your legs. You're running in college. Like, it's done. So I ran literally ever since that day.
That is so, man, to have a parent, because a lot of people don't have their parents not only not show up to like their big games or their events. Your dad just pulled up, he's like, this is a regular PE class, and to have that type of support, that's crazy. That's good. I think I would have ran faster too, but I don't think my dad would have been that nice. He would have been talking crap to me.
I love that they were like that though. I mean, a lot of parents, you ask about like baby Kellie, like those are foundational qualities. It was always like, this is great, but what else can you do? Or like, you can do this. Like, I know you think that this is enough, but I promise you can do more. And they weren't just blowing smoke. Like they genuinely meant it. And it gave me confidence in so many areas of my life now to be like, yeah, I can do more. Like, let's see what else I can do,
Always got to push the envelope.
Mm-hmm.
I love
exactly.
that. So, I mean, these things that you do, like, I mean, I'm not going to say it requires the ability to be an extrovert, but like, were you always like, was there ever that thing inside there's like, I don't know if I can do this? Because I'm going to be honest, I've been doing this interviewing for some years now, but it doesn't, like, it just never fails. I don't know if nervous is the word, but before every interview, like it could be fluent. Everyone's like, how are you so confident doing it? But like before every interview, I'm like, oh, am I going to do this right? Is it going to come out good? And my hands are sweating. Like, how was that for you? Were you always like that confident, or did you have to actually build up to it?
I think you definitely build up to it over time. I mean, I was put in a lot of situations as a kid where, for example, track, I was one of the fastest on my team in 9th grade. So I was like, I don't know, 13, 14, like running at the state finals, running the 4x8. So it's like those little like moments of pressure when you're petrified, but then you do it. So in the next scenario, next time something comes up, you're like, oh, wow, like I got through that before. And this is not nearly as scary. Like I 100% can do this now, like those little like echelons. So, I mean, last year I spoke at the Naval Academy. My stomach was in knots. I was like, oh my goodness, can't believe I'm speaking at the Naval Academy. This is crazy. But all my pageant training and all of that, like I have been in much more stressful situations. So I think that now I'm like, that's not that situation, or that's not Miss California. So this is easy. This is easy stuff.
That is so amazing. So like, what were your key events that you ran for track?
I ran mile, 800, 4x8, and sometimes 400. So it was middle distance. And then college, I just ran 800.
Do you mind saying what your times are, like your best times, your PRs for each one?
Yeah. I have to dig in the archives. My mile, which by the way, I'm retired. I don't run this anymore. Like
she will not be running for you guys.
No, everyone, when I go to take my PT test at work, they're like, "Oh, she ran at the Naval Academy." I'm like, that was 12 years ago. Like that was a long time ago.
Right.
So my PR was 5:10 for the mile. And then, yeah, I never broke 5. That was always my goal. And then it
5:10?
2:10 for the 800. Yeah. I was a quick little cat back in the day.
2:10? Oh my. Yo, you were flying.
I was flying. It was a good time. Yeah.
I could maybe name 5 people that can run a 5:10 mile. That is incredible.
Thank you.
Jesus.
Thank you.
He
said, don't expect that from me now, though.
Hey, you guys hear that, right? Hey,
I'm doing my brisk walk now. You'll find me in the back of the pack.
What about the 400?
Oh, I think 57. Yeah, I think.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah, that wasn't one of my main events, so I honestly don't even remember, but I think around there.
You ran a 57? That's not your main. This is ridiculous. That is incredible. No, that's
Thank
good.
you.
No wonder you were so successful at that. I mean, obviously you started as a young age. You put in a lot of work. You said you were running everywhere. And I think more than just training, you had the competitive spirit. You know, you were talking about how you were always going against, boys, which a lot of people feel are, maybe a little bit faster or whatever. And you're like, I don't care. I want all the smoke. So you were competing against them. You had the competitive edge, and you actually wanted to improve, and you believed you can improve, and your parents believed you improve. That's amazing right there. Those are some huge accomplishments when it comes to track. I know a lot of people are just naturally fast, but like they don't accomplish that, because you still got to put the effort in.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say it was twofold. Like my parents sat my sisters and I down pretty early in life, and they were like, you need to know now that like we're not going to be able to afford to pay for your college. My dad was an E1. He worked his way up. Obviously, he was a remarkable man. My mom stayed at home with us. But I didn't really know what that meant when they told me. I was too young. Right. But then when I started getting into high school, I was like, that means I really I don't know how I'm going to pay for college. Like I don't have $2 to my name. And then when track kind of came along, my parents, there wasn't pressure from them, but they really helped me treat it like a job, like showing up, prepared, being focused, eating well, training, because they were like, honestly, like if you keep up what you're doing now, like this is your ticket, and they were right. Like I had a lot of colleges looking at me and offering me scholarships. So I think that like there's so many teens who just kind of like dabble. Like, oh, like soccer's cool, or like lacrosse is fun. And they let me dabble in a couple things. I played field hockey and I didn't flourish. But track was like, hey, this is your ticket. Like, let's treat it like a job and let's see where it can take you.
Right. God, that's still amazing though. That's, thanks. Maybe 5 minutes, close to 5 minutes, my mile. I don't know. I think my fastest might have been like a 5:20 or something like that.
That's good though. Yeah, that's cooking.
Maybe 5:20. I might be embellishing a little bit. I'm not trying to, but that's incredible. I can just imagine going that fast. I remember like people that were in like middle school. There was always the kid that was at the front of the pack, and we do our 1 mile. We get our 4 popsicle sticks every time.
Yeah.
Every time we go around.
Presidential fitness test.
Yeah, there you go. and this dude would always finish under 6 minutes.
Yeah.
And like I was running like 8 minutes. I think the fastest in like elementary or middle school was like 7:50 or something like that. And this dude just flying. So I can just imagine how fast that is. That's incredible.
Thanks.
And to go with that, to be that good at track, and we're gonna kind of hit along as far as where you went with it, but you also you did like, is it considered beauty pageants or pageants?
I think now we just kind of, I don't call it like more of a competition, like the Miss USA competition. I hate the word pageant, even though it is like, it's just like such a stigma. But yeah, beauty pageants, I think of like toddlers and tiaras, like in Texas, with the big hair. So yeah, Miss USA, they're like, that's what I competed in. That was their platform aligned very similarly to like what I was interested in as an adult.
So like, when did that come about though? What were the early ages where you said, okay, this is something I'd take an interest in?
I never did a pageant as a kid. Not once. Yeah. My first pageant wasn't until 24. And it was only because I saw a commercial for Miss America. And I had just moved from San Diego. I was stationed in San Diego and I moved to Ohio. I didn't know anyone, literally no one, had zero friends in Ohio. Right. And part of that, gregarious spirit of being a Navy brat, I was like, how am I going to meet people? And then I saw this commercial for Miss America and I watched the pageant that evening. And the women on TV kept talking about like sisterhood. They're like, oh, we've met so many amazing women. They're so like-minded. They're so driven. They're all incredible. And I was like, well, what a great idea. Like if I do that, I'll probably meet like 50 women immediately. So that night I literally applied for Miss Ohio USA. And that was it. Like off to the races after that. But yeah, I was 24, never done a pageant in my entire life.
So like what, I guess I feel like you have to have like a certain level of confidence to do that, right? Like to think if I want to apply to play football, I know I have to be a certain level of strength. I probably got to be a certain level of quickness. Like I know you wanted to meet people, but like, how did you have the confidence already to be like, nope, this is what I want to do. And I'm just going to apply tonight.
Yeah, I think part of it was I was naive, right? Like I watched it on TV and I was like, how hard can this be? Like they walk on stage in a gown and a swimsuit. Cool. And they smile. I was like, I love to smile. Like I'm the perfect person for this. But then the other portion of your final score is the interview that happens. And I've always, been very comfortable in front of the camera, done a lot, did the school news. Like, I really felt like I would do well in that arena as well. So I was like, sure, like what's the worst that can happen? Like that was kind of what I was thinking. Right. Boy, was I wrong. I mean, there is a lot more to it. I learned the hard way. I did it 4 times. I ended up competing 4 times, 3 in Ohio and then once in California. So there was a lot to learn along the way, but yeah, that is pretty transformative. Nobody gives those women enough credit. Like they are incredible human beings.
No, please help someone that's like ignorant about this whole thing to understand, because we see the final product, right? Right. People on TV, they get asked questions, kind of like a board in the military, for lack of better terminology. But see, you probably have a little bit more of the insight of like what gets taken more into consideration than others. Is it all even across the board? Is it how you answer it? Is it who answers the most questions the best, who doesn't, who's confident up there, who looks the best? Like what's exactly are you competing? Like what's the criteria that you're competing?
So before I get into criteria, I'll break it down. And like, there's so many different systems, pageant systems. So you might scroll on Instagram tomorrow and be like, oh, look, it's Miss California. But it might be like a super, super tiny system. And they're Miss California Earth United States. And they had 10 women at the pageant, but their primary focus is like philanthropy. And like, that's what they go and do. So their criteria is a little bit different. Most commonly, we know Miss America and we know Miss USA, and people don't know they're different. Miss USA, our Miss America, the age limit is 24. So that's why when I went online, I went to apply. I was too old. I couldn't apply for Miss America. So I was like, what else is there? And there was Miss USA, and the age limit, I believe, is 28 or 29. So I applied for that. So, and Miss USA, very heavy interview based, very fashion forward, but a lot more about their platform, confidently beautiful, empowering women, like being a good servant in your community, that sort of thing. So there's that. So when you're competing, they break it into thirds. I think it's like 33% is gown. It's more about the confidence you exude on stage and, your presentation. Or so they say. There's also a lot behind like the dress you pick and the image you portray. Like, I didn't know that. It's like marketing, essentially. It really is.
Wow.
Like, my first couple years, I walked in like this yellow bell ball gown. I was like, I love yellow. I'm going to do that. So confusing, like drowned me, like, hit all of my qualities. I looked insane, but I loved my dress. Well, when I was runner-up in Miss California, I wore my hair back, like very polished, like the professional that I am. I wore like a really regal gold gown. And the reason why was my coaches were like, you want to look and see this woman on stage and be like, oh yes, that's the naval officer. Like, not the girl in like a bubblegum pink or bright yellow dress. You want it to like make sense with your branding. So I learned so much, right? So it's also swimsuit, which is like your basic fitness and confidence, and then also interview. Who are you? What do you stand for? What do you want to do with the title, and how is that going to propel you? It's a lot. I got to do a whole podcast.
That blew my mind. I'm gonna tell you right now. I promise you, I am not the only one lost about like I said, we see it. Like you were talking about how there's different ones from like when they're a kid. I've seen those. I've seen the one which is probably the most popular one that they have, where the Steve Harvey presented the
Miss
wrong
Universe. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, I just saw an interview with her too. We'll talk about that later. But so we see these clips because social media is so prominent these days. So there's so many different outlets and where you could like get a lot of this information from. But I think a lot of us are kind of lost on just like what it is. But I think that kind of helped to clarify, what it is that they're looking for. Because I'm gonna be honest, and I hope this doesn't sound terrible. I thought it was just like who looks the best, and then as long as you don't say anything crazy, you're probably gonna win.
I mean, everyone does pretty much, and even I did. I was guilty of that as well. And then I got involved in it, and I was like, these women are remarkable. A lot of them, they're med students. They're MBA candidates, they're entrepreneurs, they're amazing. And the reason why they're doing Miss USA is because it gives them a huge platform, right? Like it's like a first class ticket to, being able to expand your brand and connect with people in your network and your community because you get so much publicity. And that was one of the reasons why I kept doing it, was because there's never been a woman in the Navy to go to Miss USA before. So
wait, really?
Never. Yeah, they had a Army captain. She won in like 2014, I think. And they've had a couple Army girls. Yeah, never a woman in the Navy. And I was like, why not? Like, let's do this. Like that's what's going to only further my platform of like, we can do both, like serve and then be feminine and confident and beautiful. So that's why I kept doing it. Like, it's such a launch pad of opportunity.
That's what I'm talking about. I'd love to hear when there's some more firsts. Hey, you know what I'm saying? Tell the people about it. That's what I'm talking about. No, and I'm sure there was a lot of pressure on, well, I mean, I guess it depends on how you take pressure. Pressure is always going to exist, but it seems like there'd be a lot of pressure trying to be the first of something like that on such a big platform. Mm-hmm. And like I said, there's so many outlets and clips that get put out there, and then you're the first one. It takes somebody that's, like you said, somebody that's confident and truly understands why they're doing that to do something like that.
Thanks. I think it kind of always dials back to your intention. Like, why are you doing what you're doing? And, just the other day I was challenged on social media. They were like, everything you do seems to be with self-interest. And like, I get that a lot. People are like, oh, the only reason why she has a podcast, the only reason why she competed, the only reason why she has social media following is for self-interest. And I just find that so interesting because this all takes like a lot of work and a lot of time. And I really don't have any ulterior motive other than it like not only does it allow me to like walk through doors that I have never been walked through before, but hopefully make it easier for those who come behind me. And like these are all things I'm finding that have like not been done. And women are looking for someone to do them, to help inspire them, to help feel confident. And the first time I competed in a pageant, it was supposed to be like a one-time thing. I made a ton of friends. It was great.
Right.
Awesome. And then the Navy found out about it and was like, we think it was like incredible what you did, And I was like, maybe I should keep going and like try to win this thing. But also like I had 1,000 followers at the time on Instagram, and I had messages from people. And they're like, hey, just the fact that you were standing on stage in a ball gown, confident enough to do that, like that makes me feel like I'm confident enough to be a little bit more myself at work. Or maybe I'm gonna throw on a little lip gloss today. I'm a little scared too because, my sergeant tells me like, wipe that off, like you're not gonna be taken seriously. But it's like these little things that we can do to like feel ourselves in the military. So I was like, I'm gonna do this big thing, because then if I were to win Miss USA, you can't ever say again like, oh, you should not be feminine in the military. You cannot be yourself, or you can't have passions, because I'm proof that you can.
So did the Navy jump behind that at all and use it as like some type of marketing? Like, did they have like a Navy banner up top or something? Or did you have like I don't know what it's called around the...
Yeah. But it again, I was so proud to do it though. Like I ended up wearing Navy across my chest when I was in Ohio. And that was not, like a direct order. That was my decision. So I represented like Ohio River, like we were called Ohio River Valley, our district, but I was like Ohio Navy District or something. I don't remember.
Right.
But, the Navy did a promo on me for their episode of Faces of the Fleet, where they follow someone around. They do like a short documentary on them. I did that. Again, but I was happy to do it. I didn't realize it. I'll be honest with you. I got bullied so much online. People tore me apart from competing in my first pageant. And I was just like, this was like such a simple idea. Like doing this, making some friends, throwing on a ball gown, and like call it a day. People are like, oh, this is going to follow you. No one's ever going to take you seriously. And I think that's what made me want to do it even more, because I was like, this is not with ill intent. Like, what? And that's exactly the stigmas that we need to shatter in the military, because something as small as posting workouts or taking your fitness seriously, people are like, oh, like, you should really be more focused on the mission. It's like, we all need to have outlets. Like, that's not correct. You are not correct. Like, you can still be dedicated to your career and to your service and do your job very, very well and explore these passions outside of the military.
Yeah, it's like, maybe I'll take away my weekend too. Like, you want that? Like, come on.
Exactly. And, and I've always had my CO's endorsement. My chain of command has always been aware of these projects that I've pursued. And I also don't let it affect my performance. So, that's bottom line, is that sustained superior performance will carry you through and, allow you to pursue things outside of work.
Only the military, where people will give you criticism on not doing anything that doesn't involve the military. Like, if I worked at Home Depot, my whole life won't be Home Depot. Right. You know what I'm saying? Like, no, how dare you do anything besides woodworking? Like, stop it. You know what I'm saying? Like, everybody has hobbies, things that keep them sane, things that make them work better. I bet you probably work better knowing that you're able to do things that actually make you happy, as opposed to if it was taken away, like how you would feel at work.
Absolutely. I'm like living proof of that. I make time for my passions, my podcasting, all of these things. Like, there's like a reset button. every day, every weekend. Like I truly leave work at the door if I can on
Yeah.
Friday, and then I switch gears, into normal civilian Kelly mode or like, that sort of thing. Throw on my cute dress and my makeup, then boom, Monday's back to work. But I'm detached from it. I'm able to feel rejuvenated, and a lot of those things like pageantry taught me a lot about influencing, which Navy recruiting sure loved that, when I was a recruiter. So branding, marketing, all of those things, those are qualities I pulled and I learned from pageantry. So you need to dive into multiple things or else you're just how are you supposed to elevate your game in whatever you're doing if you're not trying other things?
No, absolutely. And this is once again, this is one of the reasons why I decided to even have a podcast is because when I was in Japan, like I was speaking to, I guess I interviewed, but I was speaking to some senior enlisted, and this does not go for all of them. So, small print there. But I was talking to some senior enlisted that have been 27 years, close to being 30, and just asking a simple question. Hey, what do you plan on doing when you get, when you retire? And what made you stay in this long? And a lot of them, I would say almost most of them, end up staying in because their money wasn't where they wanted it to be. And a lot of them, when they retired, they just wanted to work at the door. I'm like, nah, see, that mentality right there kind of goes on what you were saying, where a lot of people don't start their next project while they're in. They wait until they get out and go,
Right.
let me try to figure out what I'm going to do. And, I did the majority of my whole new way of doing podcasting during the pandemic. And
Really?
during that pandemic, I gained a lot of traction and, different videos and a lot of different guests. And I was able to do that because I took advantage during instead of waiting until I'm going to get out or waiting until you retire to try to, turn those ventures on. So I encourage people to do things outside of the military,
Absolutely. I feel the exact same way. And, I think, again, like if you're not challenging yourself in other areas of your life and you're not changing those who you're surrounded by, you're going to come out with the same result every single time. I think one of the best things that I did, one, I was stationed in Ohio, not by choice, but that's where I was sent. But I was surrounded by people outside of the Navy. And that was so great for me because up until that point, I'd only been around military children, Naval Academy midshipmen, Naval Academy grads. Then I was in a fleet concentrated area. So when I was in Ohio, not only were these people like, oh, you're the first person in the Navy I've ever met in my life, to include my husband, honestly,
Right.
But I didn't realize so many of the opportunities, the things that they were pursuing and the hobbies that they had outside of work. And I was like, this really is like possible. You really can like do both. Like why is it such a stigma in the military that you can't? And again, it was surrounding myself by different people. I think sometimes it's a comfort thing, like, oh, like I only want to hang out with other Marine Corps officers because like I'm a Marine. But push yourself outside of your comfort zone and connect with those people. We like to call them civilians, right? But hey, there's a lot more civilians than there are in the military, and they're impressive people. They're doing a lot of good stuff out there. So that's definitely helped change the game for me.
No, diversity is definitely very important. Because when I first started doing my interviews, I wanted to find the people that have personally influenced me the most. And obviously, being a Marine, I'm surrounded by more Marines than anything else. So I was picking a bunch of Marines, and I had some friends like, hey man, you gonna interview anybody else besides Marines? If you're gonna call yourself veteran influencers, I was like, yeah, that's a great point. So, I got little onesies and twosies. Navy, Army. I had a Coast Guard, and I think I've had like one or two Air Force on some of the panels, and the farther I go along, I think people start to see who I am. Maybe I've been told I've showed up in people's feed. Being recognized by someone when you just show up to like a random base or a place when someone's like, I just saw you on my feed, like you're Chris. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like that is like the greatest thing,
It's so funny. My sweet boss, I will show up at events and people be like, "You're Kellie Sbrocchi. I follow you on Instagram." I'm like, "Oh no!" Like, I'm always so embarrassed, but I mean, she's pretty used to it now. But I'm always like, "Thanks for your support. I appreciate it." But I'm like, "Oh dang it!" Like, I always get so embarrassed every single time. Like, I know I should be proud. Like, that's super cool. But it's always the situations in which it happens. I'm like with a bunch of like Navy captains. I'm like, and they like don't even know what social media is probably. So I'm like, dang it. Oh no.
No, that's awesome. And we were talking about like a lot of your accomplishments, which it goes on forever and ever, as you can see. And that's to the people out there. Obviously, your accomplishments, but we briefly spoke about the support that you've had growing up. Being in the Navy, and your dad was a pretty big influence for you kind of growing up, and you talked about how he kind of helped to help with your confidence and kind of mold you for where gave you like a clear path to where you want to go and always like pushing you to be better. I know you were talking about how he started off being enlisted, but so like how was that growing up with having a Navy dad?
Again, it's all what you're used to, right? So I was used to dad working really hard and putting on a uniform every single day and moving around, like that was our life. It wasn't until I went to the Naval Academy myself. I kind of was like, I feel like I owe you an apology and also like a congratulations. Like, you were just dad for so long, helping me out and giving me all these opportunities. But now as an adult, I'm like, I'm so impressed by you and what you did. And I understand how hard it is to commission and like being E1 with a family of 5. Like, that's so remarkable to me. So I just feel like I have so much more respect for him even now. But again, that gets like disguised when you're a kid. It's just what you're used to. You're like, oh, it's dad. Like, this is super, super normal. But as I reflect more and more every day, I'm like, they played such a pivotal role in the way that I think through things and make decisions and challenge myself. And I think there was just always there was never a glass ceiling. It was like, truly, whatever you want to accomplish, just put your mind to it. Like, why can't you? And that's such a powerful word whenever you are a kid. It's like, you're right. Why? Like, why can't I? Why can't I do that? And I still hold that near and dear today when people challenge me on, hey, you can't be an officer and be influencing on social media, or like you can't do modeling or whatever it is. And I always will follow up with the very like, not like, a very like assertive, why or anything like that, but just very calmly like, why? Like, I would love to hear your explanation as to why you think that. And it's usually just like, oh, well, you just like shouldn't. I mean, there's usually never any explanation.
Never.
And I will counter that with, well, you see on influencing, social media, I've built a community for not just a lot of women, but also men who are looking for a mentor and a role model. And there's a lot of people in the military who don't think that you can pursue passions, or they're too scared to potentially dip their toe into other opportunities while serving. And that's either not allowing them to continue their service because they think that they can't do it, or it's not even making them interested in serving because they think they can't do other things. But I want to showcase that you can. And, I don't understand why me posing in a cute outfit on social media with a full face of makeup is going to bring discredit upon me whatsoever when I do my job perfectly fine. And they're just like, yeah, you just shouldn't. I'm like, okay.
Thanks.
I'm like, thank you. I'll consider that next time.
They just shouldn't. Cool. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Yeah. But I mean, if I'm always open to feedback, and I think that's something as a leader you constantly need to be willing to take is feedback from your subordinates, feedback from your superiors or peers. When someone comes to me with any sort of critique or criticism, I will be like, thank you so much. Let me just marinate on this for a second. And then sometimes I'm like, wow, they're right. Like, I would have never thought of it that way. But
Right.
I'll alter course and, course correct. And then sometimes I'm like, I mean, they just missed the mark completely on who I am just as a person. And it's fallen deaf to them. Like, they're not trying to see my intention. They're not trying to see what I'm doing. They're just seeing surface level. And they're like, and yeah, we just don't like it, you know? So anyway, the criticism and the feedback is always great. And you just have to know how you're going to react to it and what you're going to do with it.
Yeah, it's unfortunate because sometimes I push the line with videos I do, but I do it on purpose. But I'll make some like controversial posts on like Facebook and stuff. But I always tell people, a lot of people will ask me to post something. But the thing about it is, if you ignore things that are controversial, they don't go away.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't teach somebody something by just telling them not to do it. So I'll put these controversial posts on there.
Yep.
And there's certain subjects that it's about, like men and women, military versus getting out, why you got out, all those type things that like people kind of pucker up when they hear.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of people that are willing to put their thoughts on paper, no matter how they're being judged about it. But to have a conversation about it and actually like express your point of view, maybe throw some new facts in there to allow someone to possibly like absorb that and change their answer or change their way of thinking. You can't change your way of thinking if like these conversations don't happen.
Oh my goodness. You and I we are in sync. That's exactly how I feel. And I feel like I didn't even really realize that until the last probably like 8 months-ish on social media. Like, I would post something semi-controversial, and after the fact I'd be like, oh, like maybe I should take it down. Like, it's not worth the hate or the criticism or whatever. So then I would play it safe for a while. And this year, I think, again, like I've just furthered confidence in where I'm at in my career and who I'm surrounding myself with. And there's certain topics that do need to be discussed. And so I post about them. And I have noticed the same thing. Like, boom, trolls, haters, just firing off. I'll open my phone and it's like 100 notifications, like, fire. And I'm like, whoa, anxiety. But what I've learned now is if I don't share them, who will? And it's sparking a conversation that needs to be had. You know what I mean? Like, some people have literally told me, like, I really didn't think about it that way until you posted about it. I like never would have thought about that. Just recently I posted a reel. I'm interested in what you're going to have to say about this. I posted a reel saying, stop. What did I say? Stop saying she's really pretty for a woman in the military.
Oh, I think I did see that. I think I might have seen that. Yeah, that's not cool at all.
Again, I waited on that for like 3 weeks. It was in my drafts. And fine. And because I've heard it since 2010, literally since the day I went into the Naval Academy, I hear these whispers, I hear these comments. And, it starts as like people will like approach you and be like, oh, wow, like you're really pretty for someone in the Navy. You're like, oh, wow, I wouldn't have thought you were in the Navy. And you're kind of like, oh, thanks. Like, I don't really know how to respond to that. And then now I reflect and I'm like, that's just straight up derogatory. Like, you know what? Like, there should be no one saying anything about, oh, like, you know what I mean? Like, the intention of that is strictly to demean the women in the military and how we look. And that's not the right conversation we should be having. That's not what you should be saying. And there are men very, very junior and women very, very junior who start hearing that and they perpetuate it. So I'm like, squash. And so as soon as I posted it, obviously it sparked all this controversy, but I'm like, I'm not taking it down because it's a fact. It is a fact. This is something that's said and it's not cool and it needs to stop.
Yeah, and we were talking about a little bit earlier about marketing. I've noticed at least the Marine Corps, they're very particular about what they decide to put their stamp on as far as, you used to always see all the commercials, right? Slaying the Dragon, all these other things. So the image that the military portrayed to one generation of people may not be the same as now. Like, to me, I would like a question that would spark is like, all right, so when you say, someone looks good for someone in the Navy, what is the image of the Navy females that you have, and where did you get that from?
Hmm.
And you know what you were talking about, continuing the conversation as opposed to just cutting them off and blocking them like, oh, you're ignorant. It's kind of digging a little bit more deep to figure out like where the root of this is coming from.
Hmm.
Because a lot of people are just, they're ignorant. They
Hmm.
don't know any better. Not that that's an excuse for them, but um, you know, I had a whole different image of the military before I joined.
Yeah.
And then when you're actually in it, you get to see firsthand of what things are. When a lot of people, like I told you before, it's when you tell somebody that you served, what's the first thing your friends gonna ask you? Oh, how many people, you know,
Yeah.
did you go to, you know? And it's like, not everybody picks up a rifle and goes to the battlefield. But see,
Right.
they don't know that because they see war movies. You know, they're playing these army military video games, so that's all they know. So I'm hoping that it more so comes from an ignorant place as opposed to, oh, you know, but you're just choosing violence anyways, you know?
Exactly. Yeah, I feel the exact same way. And that's why I'm passionate about what I do. Like, I hope to kind of change that conversation and that continue to break that stereotype, honestly.
Well, yeah, because, you know, I saw in your bio that you go across the country and you speak to, you know, you speak to other females, kind of like helping to build their confidence, and letting them know what, you know, essentially like what's out there in the world, but the different obstacles that face women, and then also women in the military. Is that a specific organization, or is that something you just kind of do on your own?
No, so I did a lot more of that when I was in recruiting and then just
Okay.
kind of fell into my lap. I mean, I was already doing a lot of speaking engagements as a recruiter, but then, once I did Miss Ohio USA and the Navy filmed my episode of Faces of the Fleet, then the Navy started sending me to, hey, can you speak at this? Can you speak at this? And we just want people to realize, like, they called, my series was, oh my gosh, I'm blanking. It's like something about self-navigation. But long story short, it was all about being like authentic to yourself and whatever you're
Right.
doing. So I would tell my story about kind of overcoming the cyberbullying and pursuing pageantry and like how that built me as a person while serving. So I did that, which was great. And then I pretty much switched over to virtual once I got to California and COVID happened. And then that's eventually what led to my podcast, because I would do these different events and speak at different universities, but I was always like awaiting the next invitation. Like, oh, like I hope I get an interview, or I hope I get to speak on another morning show or whatever, which was
Right.
awesome because it would always it just get tremendous amount of like reach. And like I said, start those conversations, which I loved. And I would, meet awesome women or awesome girls. But eventually I was like, I want to be in control of this myself and being able
Right.
to record it and share it at my own liberty as well, and not always like kind of waiting for the next event to go to.
No, that's awesome. Like, can you like kind of expound on what the Faces in the Fleet is? Because, like I said earlier, for good reasons, the military is pretty particular about what they decide to attach their name and their brand to. What exactly is that? Because I'm very curious to see how that worked.
Yeah, so that was, I'm trying to think, 5 years ago. Now they have like 40 episodes of Faces of the Fleet. It's a YouTube series.
I'm gonna look that up.
Yeah, they do basically like 3-minute It's like a 3-minute docu-series, but they pull amazing individuals in the Navy and tell their story. And they've, covered a variety of people. There was a guy who was like previously homeless, joined the Navy. Their stories are remarkable. And I was just honored to be kind of like one of the pilot episodes.
Right.
And I was the second episode they recorded, and essentially it was just about being your authentic self. And I talked about how, the second day I was in the Navy, I was told, don't wear makeup, don't bring attention to yourself. Like, if you think femininity is a priority, like, you're not going to be taken seriously in the Navy. And I remember, like, that was such, like, to the core. I've always been like really stylish and really feminine and really girly, which is one of the reasons I almost didn't go to the Naval Academy, because I was like, oh, there's not a place for me there.
Mm.
And so whenever, they told me that, one of my detailers, that was one of those moments of like, wait, why? I don't understand why wearing mascara is like going to keep me from being like, a good naval officer. Like that shouldn't have anything to do about it. So it's
Right.
just a small example that led to those stepping stones of me later competing in pageants. But that's essentially what it was about is, whoever you are, whoever you want to become, however you want to represent yourself on the outside is not what matters. It's about who you are on the inside, and kind of staying true to that course is going to take you far as a leader.
That is incredible. Yeah. I'm surprised I haven't heard of that. Like, yeah, I'm going to make sure I pass that on because I don't know if the Marine Corps has anything specific like that.
I don't know either. Yeah, I'm
I
not
would
sure.
like to believe that I would love to go that direction, not necessarily for the Marine Corps, but because of what I represent, with veteran influencers. I mean, that's kind of essentially the path that I want to do is find these, influential members of the military, not one particular branch, and be able to, share their story, kind of like what they did for that, for the Faces in the Fleet.
Yeah, definitely check it out. I feel like it's very tangential to what you do.
Oh, absolutely. No, I appreciate that. And, you also talked about being on some morning shows. Like, so how do you even go about getting on like, did somebody reach out to you and did they see you on Faces in the Fleet and like, I want to get you on TV? Was there somebody that you knew that worked at a news station?
And no, so when I was in recruiting, the marketing department in Millington, at Navy Recruiting Command, they, filmed me for Faces of the Fleet, knew about me, and then asked me to speak at the National Girl Scouts Convention. This was in 2017. And so I spoke at the National Girl Scouts Convention. So along with that, there was like some press and some media. So I did like Good Morning Columbus and some like news shows in the area. And then that really just like opened the door, like as soon as my name was there in the office to use. I loved working with them and I loved talking about the Navy, and I'm very passionate about what I do. They started just kind of being like, hey, are you free for this? Like, hey, do you want to go to Army Navy? Hey, do you want to do this? Blah, blah, blah. And I was like, yeah, sure. Great. Like whatever helps the Navy. And that's kind of still how I am today is I'll get emails like, hey, are you interested in going to speak here or do this? Like, we love your passion and we think you'd be a great fit for this. And I'm always like, yeah, absolutely. And that is, even this week at the Naval Academy, I'm going back to speak at the diversity conference. And I'm actually a moderator this year. I was a panelist last year, but I'm leading a conversation about daring to be authentic. And I have 4 amazing panelists who have a wide variety of backgrounds. And, it's kind of, I seize those opportunities. You absolutely have to, like I look back, I'm like, I could have said no to a couple of those emails. I could have not asked permission. It's scary to ask permission. It is like, I had asked my CO permission to do Miss Ohio USA on the day I checked in. Like,
oh my God, I'm sure that was an interesting conversation.
I was
by the way,
terrified, but the deadline was coming up and, she was extremely supportive and she was like, look, we need new energy in recruiting. We need new ideas. Like, you're the youngest person here. We're recruiting your generation. Like, what do you got for me? And I was like, wow, actually.
That's what I'm talking about.
Actually, I wouldn't compete Miss Ohio. So you have to seize those opportunities and not be scared. Because there's times, even now, I'm like, I don't really want to ask about this. Like, I'm nervous. Like, it takes time away from work. I'm TAD or, whatever it is. But you can always come back and respond to emails. You can always, make time you can have someone sub in a couple of those meetings as long as it's not like directly impacting your line of work. I say ask for permission and do it and expand your knowledge and your reach and your audience because amazing things happen.
God, it's like the more I talk about the things that you've done, I'm going to be honest. And I've asked some of these questions the way I did because I want the answer. It gives everybody else some information as well. But like, just kind of seeing the path that you took or like how you got to, to do certain things that I would consider successful. People like me that would consider successful, like just to kind of seeing like the path you took and how it came about. That's definitely interesting to me. And that's also knowledge I could pass on to other people because I probably don't get half the emails or messages you do, but I get a lot of messages. Hey, how do you do this? Hey, can you help with this? Hey, I'm trying to do this show. How do you, what kind of equipment did you get for your podcast? Like, I've noticed, the quality you've had from the time you started to now is like, can you help me with this? And I try to give as much information from these interviews, as well as reference them to the interviews as I can, and to help other people out. And I'm just like picking your brain on a lot of this stuff right now. So
Thanks.
that's incredible.
I really appreciate that. And like I said, that's the good and the bad part about getting a larger reach is like I sometimes dedicate like full afternoons to like responding to my messages for hours and hours and hours. And sometimes it's just like daunting, to kind of go in there. When I have smaller following, I could be a lot more personal, but I try to be really informative with my posts, my reels. Like I would try to really give like tips and like tangible pieces of information for them to take away of how do I do this. And, for any listeners out there who are like, okay, you did Miss USA, you did this, you did that. Like how do you do that while you're active duty? Number one, it starts before you ever pursue any of those options. You need to like already be a top performer in whatever you're doing. You need to already be showing up, being one of the best at work every day. If you are not one of those top performers, if you're not already not just showing up, but like exceeding in your role or your billet, you need to get there, because the next step is that buy-in from your chain of command and that communication from your chain of command. And I've always asked my chain of command for permission, always. And people might say like, oh, like that's a luxury. You're an officer. That's not true. I've always fought for my sailors too, who want to pursue any of those things as well. So that buy-in, if I had to get permission to compete in Miss USA, I had to route paperwork up to the Secretary of the Navy. I had to get permission I applied for Sports Illustrated swimsuit, had to route paperwork up to Secretary of the Navy. Like, even influencing social media, I'm in constant communication with my JAG and my ethics advisor, and my boss is aware and has buy-in. So like the next step is that chain of command communication. And then finally, like it's all the admin. There is admin you have to file and route to do a lot of these things. If you want to be on a game show, you got to route paperwork for it. If you want to be on a reality TV show, Ninja Warrior, got to route paperwork for it. Like, all of these things aren't impossible.
Right. It just takes time and research.
Just research it. And it's the same thing with like you and I being active duty, like know the policies.
Right.
Read the instructions, empower yourself. I know the PIO guidance for social media backwards and forwards, but those are the tips. Like that's going to help you be able to navigate that while you're serving.
Right. Yeah, I always tell people on my episodes, because I get so many messages, hey, can you talk about what's going on in Afghanistan? We want an episode on this. I'm like, nah. See, right now, like I always tell people, that come on with the guests, and whenever I was doing panels for my other podcasts as well, I always say no politics is one of them. Let's not get into like that, the government type stuff. And let's refrain. I try to refrain away from the male-female connection type thing. Like you've seen some of the podcasts that are out there that kind of harp on, that's the main subject of conversation for their stuff. I'll put little posts out there to have these conversations, but I see how much controversy like comes from that. And I'm not trying to bring that type of attention to this, because there's so many important things that you're saying that all those things can be negated if we have that conversation, because everyone's going to focus on that one piece. And it's just not worth it to me.
Yeah, I do the exact same thing. And I do the same thing on social media, and sometimes I get scrutiny for that too. If there's something like politically that's going on and I don't repost it or I don't speak about it. Right. People are like, I can't believe you didn't bring up blank. And I'll get like hate DMs for like not doing it. So you can't win, right? Like you can't win. But again, I'm like, I am active duty and I don't want to push my political agenda out, because that's controversial. But also like either way, like you're going to offend someone. So like, I'm not even going, that's not why I'm here. Like, you can have your opinion. I'm going to have my opinion, and we're going to like stay in this lane and just, keep it neutral.
No, absolutely. Because the thing I was gonna ask you is, you talked about certain things that you expound on, like from all the things that you've done, from the Miss America, to the pageants, to maybe even about like your track days for anyone that's like trying to pursue that. Is that some of the things you talk about on your podcast? And then can you also let the people know the name of your podcast?
Yeah, I talk about it all. It is all in there. So my podcast is called Misunderstood, MISS Understood, and it's a play on words because like I just feel like as a person, I'm constantly misunderstood. Like as Kellie Hall Sbrocchi, I mean, people challenge my intention. They challenge why am I doing something that why is she showing up this like she can't possibly be that nice or whatever it is. Like I've just been challenged like my whole life. So not only did I named it Misunderstood because I wanted to dive into all things that are misunderstood and like attack them, whether it's concepts or mental health or pageantry or building confidence, or, all those things I dive into. But also I never won a Miss USA title. I never won it. I was runner-up in California. I didn't win Miss California USA. And even so, I still feel like I'm the queen of being misunderstood. So that's...
Claim it.
Yeah, I'm like, that's me. I'm taking it. I'm running with it. But yeah, I've just hit my 80th episode. So season 3. Check it out. Yes, it's been such a blessing.
80th episode. Oh my, that's crazy because my seasons have varied on number of episodes and what I'm doing around that time. So this is actually season 4. And I don't think I have 80 yet. I don't think I've done 80.
It's tough.
Now when you do the episodes, is it visual or is it mostly auditory?
So it's all auditory.
Okay.
I am kind of building the plane as I fly it even now. During COVID, I started recording, and the advice I got, which, good advice for you too, one of my mentors was like, every day you don't push out your podcast is a day that someone isn't hearing something you're sharing. Like they need to hear what you have to say. So you're withholding that from them. And so she's like, so you might wait another week, you might wait 2 more months, but like someone out there like needs to hear what you have to say now. And so it's not going to be perfect. You're not going to have the perfect branding. You're not going to have the perfect intro. You're not going to have the perfect audio, but just start speaking. Like that's the hardest part. So I just whipped out a microphone and my laptop and used this kind of like really JV equipment, but started recording, and the podcast started doing really well. But I have to manage it at a level that I can handle, and
can you say that part again one more time? Because so many people talk about not starting and they get overwhelmed, and I'm guilty of it. Can you say that part one more time?
Why they should start?
No, you got to get do it at a level that
Yeah, you have to do it at a level you can handle, because and like be very honest with yourself. Like I think people see podcasts that have YouTube channels and perfect branding and all this amazing technology, but like that has to be built over time. And I'm very multi-passionate, clearly, but I kind of look at my life as a car. Like in the front seat is my marriage and my career, always in the front seat. Like boom, side, not side by side because my husband's more important, but like,
Hey,
those are
hold on.
Yeah.
What am I talking about right there, man?
My husband's always in the driver's seat. My marriage's always in the driver's seat. But in the back seat, and depending on what billet I have at the time, it helps me figure out my flexibility, my free time. So when I was in recruiting, I kind of built my own schedule. I could get home at a decent time, pump out a couple of podcast episodes. Didn't necessarily have weekends taken away from me. Now I'm on the road. I travel a ton. I'm gone for weeks at a time. And So I look on my car and I'm like, okay, what's in the car? Like, what am I to keep in the car? And I was like, social media. I'm going to keep doing that because as long as I'm building my audience on social media, I'm kind of nurturing that and allowing that brand to continue to grow. And then podcasting is in the backseat. Like, I'm going to do what I can. So my first year, I cranked out like 50 episodes because it was COVID. Like, we were teleworking. There were less people on the roads. There was no traffic. Like, it was easy, honestly, to do it. Now we have weddings and trips, and I'm, commuting an hour each way, and it's just not possible. So I had an honest conversation with myself, and I'm like, expectation management, I'm going to do the best I can and crank out when I can these episodes. So now I'm at 80, but that's great. Like, ultimately I wanted to hit 100 by the end of the year, but I don't think that's going to happen. But that's okay. Like, I just
into existence. You
got
this.
I'm so close. My husband and I were doing the math. He's like, you have to crank out like 7 a month. And I was like, yeah, I don't think that's going to happen. I have too much travel. But to get back to your original point that's why I stick to the audio. I don't always have time to get full makeup and hair ready. I don't always have a good connectivity. Sometimes I will just literally sit on the floor in my apartment and crank out an episode when I feel inspired. Like, just voice, that's it. Boom. Like, felt inspired today. I wanted to record. Here's what I want to talk about. So there's no glitz and no glam. So someday I have big plans for the podcast. I'd love to have a studio, visual, audio, all of that. But you got to build a plane as you fly it, and then someday it's gonna soar like a private jet.
How do you come up with like your subjects though? Like, because one thing I've noticed in the beginning, I was like, man, I'm gonna do a video a day. I'm gonna this, and then when you actually come to the reality part of it, it's like you hit this like writer's block almost. It's like, what am I gonna talk about to where I'm not just rambling?
Right. So I have a note in my phone of podcast ideas.
Okay.
And it's so long, and it comes from conversations I have with my girlfriends. They don't know. They're like, I'm struggling to balance my planning a wedding and my full-time career. And I'm like, boom, podcast episode. Or, Kellie, I don't understand how you're so confident. Like, what are steps I can take to start being as confident as you? Boom, podcast episode. Hey, how did you and your husband manage expectations because he's a civilian and you're in the Navy and he moves with you? Like, how did you start that conversation? Boom, podcast episode. Like, it comes up every day. And then I also really be in tune with the questions you're already receiving from your followers in the form of comments, DMs. Like you and I talked about, when you get the same question all the time, you're like, okay, that's got to be an episode, because I can't respond to everyone who DMs me about how to get into the Naval Academy. But that's a podcast episode I have, episode 6. But yeah, that's really where it comes from, and then there's also some episodes I've gone back and I've re-recorded now because in 2 years I've changed. My life has changed. I'm a wife. I'm not, my last pageant was in 2020, I'm doing other things. So I will kind of approach topics differently now with a different mindset. And so I'll touch on those again as well.
That's awesome. That is awesome, man. So, and can you say is misunderstood just MISS understood?
Yep.
And where can they find that?
On Spotify and on iTunes.
Okay, Spotify and iTunes. Mm-hmm. And did you want to do your tags real quick for like your social media for anywhere you want people to follow? And then right after that, I just got our little quiz around, and then
love it.
Yeah.
Love it. Yeah, absolutely. So I'm predominantly on Instagram at Kellie, KELLIE .Sbrocchi, SBROCCHI, my name. And then recently on TikTok, which is like insane. Like, TikTok's wild. I don't know anything about TikTok. Like, it's such a different world out there. So your girl's struggling, but it's also Kellie Sbrocchi. But yeah, those are the main platforms you can find me at. And then of course my podcast, Misunderstood.
Absolutely. So before you get out of here, I want to test something out, and it has to do a little bit with something that you did in your past career. And answer it how you want, and it's typically like a speed type thing, but because of this subject, I want you to take the time so you don't have to say something you're not gonna want to put on a camera. So,
Okay.
so you were a part of the recruiting command, and you've done a lot of amazing things that actually help to, in my opinion, help to add to the betterment of the recruitment for those that are looking to join the Navy, or just the military in general. What is here I am, I'm just, I'm a civilian, right? Give me 3 reasons to join the Navy.
Oh my gosh. Opportunity. You're going to be put in opportunities and situations you never would as a civilian working in a corporate office. Point blank. The leadership, the people, those go hand in hand. You genuinely, this community, people get out and come back in because you will not find this community anywhere else. My best friend is my roommate from the Naval Academy. She's an amazing Marine officer. You need to have her on your show. Jackie Barnum, literally the best. That's my roommate, my maid of honor.
Okay.
Yeah.
Shout out to you.
But that was my introduction. She was my roommate at the Naval Academy, but it's further along, the people, my chiefs, my senior chiefs, my sailors, I literally have chills just thinking about it, how awesome they are. And, I'm married to someone who's out in the corporate world. He likes his coworkers, but they don't have this community. You go through stuff when you're in the military. Doesn't mean you're necessarily always going through a war, but you're going through day-to-day struggles and personal struggles and family struggles, and you don't understand that unless you're in the military. So I feel that sense of community is hard to find. And then lastly, this is why I joined. There is really no other way you're going to maximize your potential than doing the hardest, most challenging thing, which is serving your country. It is hard. It is a hard decision to make to do this, and you can do anything else with your life. But I promise you, once you go to basic training or do something graduate the Naval Academy or get through those challenges, you're going to become a more confident person along the way. And I never wanted to look on my life and wonder, what if? What if I joined the Navy? What if I'd gone to the Naval Academy? Kind of knew what my life would look like if I was a civilian, honestly. Very, very cozy or comfortable, whatever. Probably working in marketing or something. But I had no idea what my life would look like if I joined the Navy. And I still don't. I'm awaiting orders any day. I have no idea where I'm going to be next year. But I like that challenge. I like who I'm becoming through these years of service. It's so incredible to go through that transformation. So I'd say those are the 3 things. Sorry, I know it's supposed to be short. I failed. I totally failed.
No, I'm just wondering where I sign up for the Navy at. I feel
I'm a little biased, but I have really loved it.
No, that is absolutely amazing. Ladies and gentlemen, Lt.Kellie Sbrocchi.
Thank you.
You have been an absolutely amazing guest, and you speak with I can just tell you care about what you talk about. Some people just kind of have a normal conversation. It's just, because they memorize what they're talking about. I feel like you're actually very passionate about what it is that you do, from talking about things that, women in the military, things that they struggle with, from your podcast to doing your own individual ventures, running for Miss USA, bringing the Navy, great light upon their brand as well. And all that while balancing your life, being a new wife. You are an absolutely amazing person.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that more than you know.
Absolutely. Is there anything else you want to say to the people?
Just, if you have that little thing inside of you, it's I kind of want to explore this passion, or I kind of want to dip my toe into this, or I kind of want to apply for this job or go for this, but there's always that big but I can't, but I shouldn't, but what are people going to say? Take one chance. Just do it one time, because that's all it took for me. It took one time applying for the Naval Academy, getting through that. And then I was like, well, what else can I do? Seriously. And you never want to look back on your life and wonder, what if? You want to be yep, I checked all the boxes. I did all the things and I have no regrets.
That is absolutely amazing. go for your goals and don't let nobody tell you no.
Yes, exactly.
That is incredible. Well, I appreciate you, ma'am. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to jump on my podcast.
Thank you.